As we grow older, many of us begin to face a truth that's harder to ignore, the quiet stillness of being alone. The phone calls from friends and family become fewer, and the vibrant social connections that once filled our days seem to fade into the background. We might even find ourselves surrounded by people, but still feel that haunting sense of solitude, wondering if this is what the rest of our years will look like. But what if I told you that this loneliness doesn't have to be something to fear or resist? In the ancient wisdom of Buddhism, loneliness is not an enemy. It's not a punishment or a sign of failure. It's a natural part of the human experience, a space that, if embraced with the right perspective, can lead us to deeper peace, greater self-discovery, and profound connection to the world around us. If you're feeling alone, or perhaps wondering how to find meaning in this stage of life, I invite you to take a journey with me through the lens of Buddhist philosophy. Together, we'll explore how loneliness can become a powerful teacher, guiding us toward the inner peace and love we've been seeking all along. But before we dive in, if you've ever felt the weight of solitude or are curious about how these ancient teachings can brighten your days, I'd love for you to stick around. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and share this video with someone who might need to hear these words today. And don't forget to turn on notifications, because I'm about to share a journey that will inspire and empower you in ways you might never have imagined. Let's explore the reality of growing older alone, not as a curse, but as an opportunity for growth and peace through the wisdom of Buddhism. Keep watching, and let's uncover the beauty in what might seem like a difficult chapter of life. Buddhism's perspective on loneliness. A different lens. In the midst of life's inevitable ebb and flow, loneliness often becomes a constant, companion for many, especially as we grow older. For those in their 50s and beyond, loneliness can feel like a shadow that follows them into quiet rooms and empty spaces, a reminder of how fleeting life is and how relationships, once so vibrant, can fade away with time. But what if we told you that there's another way to see loneliness, a way that doesn't demand us to resist or fight it, but to embrace it as a natural part of life? Buddhism offers us a unique and deeply insightful perspective on loneliness, one that can transform this feeling of isolation into an opportunity for self-discovery, peace, and profound inner wisdom. Loneliness as a natural part of life. Buddhism teaches us that everything in life is impermanent. This includes not just the people we love, but also the circumstances, our physical health, and even our emotions. Loneliness, in this view, is not something to avoid, resist, or even mourn. It is simply another part of life's natural cycle. It is not a punishment, nor is it a sign of failure. Instead, loneliness serves as a reminder of the transience of all things. And rather than seeing it as something to fear or reject, Buddhism encourages us to accept it as an essential part of the human experience. The Buddhist view of loneliness is beautifully captured in the principle of anicca, or impermanence. Anicca tells us that everything is in a constant state of change. Relationships evolve, people grow, and circumstances shift. At some point, everyone faces the reality of losing loved ones, whether through death, distance, or the simple nature of change. Loneliness arises naturally as a result of this impermanence, just as joy arises when we are in the presence of those we care for. It is a part of the ebb and flow of life that cannot be avoided or stopped, no matter how hard we try. For those of us who experience loneliness in our later years, this Buddhist perspective offers a profound sense of liberation. Instead of fighting against it, we can learn to live with it, understanding that it too shall pass. It is like the waves in the ocean. They come and go, but the ocean itself remains steady, unshaken. In the same way, when we understand that loneliness is not a permanent state, but a temporary moment in time, we begin to approach it with patience and acceptance. The concept of impermanence, to further understand how loneliness fits within the Buddhist worldview, we must delve deeper into the concept of impermanence. Anicca is one of the three marks of existence in Buddhism, alongside suffering, dukkha, and non-self, anatta. It teaches us that nothing in life is fixed or unchanging. This includes the relationships and people we hold dear, our lives, our health, and even our very emotions. When we face loneliness, especially in our later years, we may feel the sharp sting of loss. Our children may grow up and start their own families, our friends may move away or pass on, and we may find ourselves alone in ways we never expected. This can bring up feelings of emptiness, sadness, and longing. However, from a Buddhist perspective, this feeling of loss is not something to resist or avoid. It is simply part of the impermanent nature of life. By acknowledging this truth, we allow ourselves to release the grip we have on the past, and in doing so, we open up to the present moment. The only constant in life is change, said Buddha. And once we accept this truth, we can begin to release our attachments to people, places, and even our own expectations of how life should be. This doesn't mean we stop loving or caring for others. It means we let go of the need for things to remain the same forever. The acceptance of impermanence allows us to navigate the ups and downs of life with greater peace and wisdom, knowing that even the most painful moments are part of the natural flow of life. Embracing change with compassion. Rather than trying to avoid loneliness, Buddhism teaches us to face it with compassion. Compassion in this sense is not just a feeling of sympathy for others, but an ability to hold space for ourselves with kindness, especially in moments of difficulty. Compassion begins within. It starts with us learning to be kind to ourselves. In our loneliness, when we accept loneliness as a natural part of life, we are freed from the need to resist it. Instead, we can approach it with the same compassion we would offer a dear friend who is going through a difficult time. We can begin by recognizing that just like any other emotion, loneliness is not inherently bad. It is a signal, like hunger or fatigue, that something needs our attention. Rather than viewing loneliness as a burden, we can see it as a gentle invitation to turn inward, to explore what is truly important to us, and to develop a deeper sense of self-awareness. Buddhism teaches that compassion is one of the most important virtues to cultivate. And when we turn this compassion toward ourselves, especially in times of loneliness, we create an environment of peace and acceptance within our hearts. As we practice self-compassion, we become more capable of showing compassion toward others. And this cycle of kindness creates a profound sense of connection, not just with the people around us, but with ourselves as well. The only way to deal with this world is to embrace it with compassion, said Thich Nhat Hanh, a renowned Buddhist monk. Compassion is the balm that heals the wounds of loneliness. It's what helps us see that we are not isolated in our pain. We are all connected through the human experience. Loneliness as a path to wisdom. When we start to see loneliness as a natural, impermanent part of life and approach it with compassion, we begin to unlock a powerful truth. Loneliness can become a path to wisdom. Buddhism encourages us to turn inward during times of solitude, to use our loneliness as a tool for self-reflection, self-discovery, and spiritual growth. In Buddhism, the practice of mindfulness is central to cultivating this wisdom. Through mindfulness, we learn to observe our thoughts and emotions without attachment or judgment. When we experience loneliness, we can practice mindfulness by simply noticing the feeling, without trying to escape it, suppress it, or label it as something bad. Instead, we allow the feeling to come and go, like clouds passing through the sky. Over time, this practice of mindfulness helps us develop a deeper understanding of our emotions, our attachments, and our desires. By embracing loneliness as an opportunity for self-reflection, we open ourselves up to deeper truths about who we are and what truly matters. As we let go of our attachment to external sources of happiness, whether that be relationships, material possessions, or social validation, we begin to cultivate a sense of inner peace and contentment that cannot be shaken by the changing tides of life. In this way, loneliness becomes not a curse, but a teacher. It shows us the impermanence of all things, the necessity of compassion, and the power of turning inward. And through this process, we discover that true peace is not found in external circumstances, but in the quiet moments of solitude, when the world feels distant and the noise of everyday life fades away. Something extraordinary happens. We begin to hear the soft whispers of our inner voice, the voice that has been waiting patiently for us to listen. This voice often rises most clearly in times of loneliness, offering us a chance to explore the depths of our own being. What if we saw loneliness not as something to be feared, but as an invitation to embark on the greatest journey of all, the journey within? Loneliness, especially in our later years, is a feeling many of us experience at one point or another. Whether due to the natural course of life as we age, the loss of loved ones, or simply the passing of time, loneliness can settle in like an old friend, familiar, yet often unwelcome. However, Buddhism teaches us to view loneliness through a different lens, not as a negative state of being, but as an opportunity for self-discovery and inner growth. This section will explore how loneliness can be transformed from a feeling of emptiness into a powerful tool for personal transformation. Opportunity for self-reflection. In our fast-paced world, it is easy to become distracted by the demands of daily life, the noise, the responsibilities, the constant movement. When we are surrounded by others, there is often little space to reflect on our true selves. However, loneliness offers us a rare opportunity to turn inward, to pause, and to examine the thoughts and emotions that shape our existence. Buddhism encourages self-reflection as a vital part of the path to enlightenment. In fact, introspection is at the heart of many Buddhist practices. The Buddha himself spent years in solitude, reflecting on the nature of suffering, the mind, and the self, which led to his profound teachings. Similarly, when we experience loneliness, we are being offered the space to look at ourselves more honestly and deeply. What happens when we stop running from our thoughts and emotions? What if, instead of filling the silence with distractions, we allowed ourselves to be with our own feelings of loneliness, not as an adversary, but as a companion on the path to self-awareness? By sitting with our loneliness, we can begin to identify the patterns in our thoughts, the fears, the insecurities, the desires for external validation. We can start to understand why we feel lonely in the first place. Are we afraid of being alone because we fear rejection or abandonment? Or is our loneliness a result of feeling disconnected from our own sense of purpose or meaning in life? The Buddhist practice of Vipassana meditation or insight meditation encourages us to observe our thoughts and feelings with mindfulness and detachment. Instead of being swept away by our emotions, we learn to witness them from a place of inner stillness. This practice allows us to see the root causes of our loneliness, bringing clarity and insight into what lies beneath the surface. When we reflect on our loneliness with an open heart and a calm mind, we begin to uncover the layers of our own psyche. We discover the aspects of ourselves that we may have been avoiding or neglecting. We become more aware of our true desires, our values, and our sense of purpose. This process of self-reflection allows us to reconnect with our authentic selves, finding strength and clarity in the process. Mindfulness and meditation, tools for understanding emotions. One of the most powerful tools for navigating loneliness in Buddhism is mindfulness, the practice of being fully present in the moment, without judgment. Mindfulness helps us observe our emotions without becoming overwhelmed or consumed by them. It teaches us to see our feelings as temporary experiences that arise and pass away, rather than as permanent states of being. Mindfulness is often cultivated through meditation. In Buddhism, meditation serves as a pathway to inner peace and self-realization. There are many forms of meditation, but all share the goal of bringing us into a state of deep awareness and presence. Through meditation, we can learn to observe our thoughts, emotions, and sensations with equanimity and compassion, rather than reacting to them impulsively. When it comes to loneliness, meditation offers a unique opportunity to process and understand this emotion more deeply. Instead of avoiding or numbing our feelings of loneliness, meditation allows us to explore them with curiosity and acceptance. In doing so, we begin to see that loneliness is not something. A simple mindfulness practice can be as easy as focusing on the breath. When we feel the sensation of loneliness creeping in, we can take a moment to close our eyes, inhale deeply, and bring our attention to the rhythm of our breath. As we breathe in and out, we let go of any judgments or attachments to the feeling of loneliness. We simply observe it, acknowledging it as a part of our experience in the present moment. In time, this practice of mindfulness allows us to create distance between ourselves and our emotions. We no longer identify with our loneliness. Instead, we become the observer of it. This shift in perspective creates space for inner peace and acceptance, and over time, we begin to see loneliness as a temporary feeling rather than an enduring condition. Practical steps for embracing solitude. While meditation and mindfulness are powerful tools for transforming loneliness into self-discovery, there are also practical steps we can take in our daily lives to embrace solitude in a healthy and meaningful way. Embrace the present moment. One of the most important aspects of loneliness is the sense that something is missing. However, Buddhism teaches us that the present moment is enough. Instead of focusing on what is lacking or missing from our lives, we can practice being fully present in the here and now. Whether it's enjoying a cup of tea, taking a walk in nature, or simply sitting in silence, we can learn to find joy in the present moment without needing anything external to fill the void. Practice gratitude. Another way to embrace solitude is by practicing gratitude. When we feel lonely, it's easy to focus on what we don't have, companionship, connection, or a sense of belonging. But when we shift our focus to the things we are grateful for, we begin to change our perception of our situation. Gratitude helps us see the abundance that already exists in our lives, even in moments of loneliness. Engage in creative expression. Solitude can also be a time for creative exploration. Whether it's painting, writing, or playing music, creative expression allows us to channel our emotions and thoughts into something meaningful. In Buddhism, creativity is often seen as a form of spiritual practice, an expression of the mind's clarity and peace. By engaging in creative activities, we not only fill the silence with something beautiful, but we also connect with our deeper selves. Seek community in solitude. While loneliness is often perceived as something isolating, it can also be a gateway to connection. In Buddhism, the practice of Sangha, or community, is essential to the spiritual journey. Even when we are physically alone, we can connect with others on a spiritual level. This can be through joining a meditation group, volunteering, or simply reaching out to someone who shares similar values. By fostering a sense of connection with others, even in our solitude, we enrich our own lives and contribute to the well-being of those around us. The greatest journey within. As we move through life, loneliness will inevitably visit us at times. But Buddhism teaches us that loneliness is not something to fear or avoid. It is, in fact, a path to self-discovery, inner peace, and wisdom. By embracing loneliness with mindfulness, self-compassion, and gratitude, we begin to see that it is not an enemy, but a guide on our journey to understanding who we truly are. The greatest journey we can embark on is the journey within. As we explore the depths of our own minds and hearts, we discover that true peace and happiness do not come from external sources, but from within. When we learn to embrace solitude, we uncover the wisdom and strength that lie dormant within us, waiting to be awakened. As we walk this path, we find that loneliness no longer has the power to define us. Instead, it becomes a catalyst for personal growth and spiritual awakening. And in the end, we realize cultivating compassion and loving kindness to overcome loneliness. In the silence of loneliness, when the world seems distant and we feel like we are wandering alone, there is a transformative power that often goes unnoticed: compassion. It is easy to get lost in our own feelings of isolation, to feel as though no one understands our pain, and to see ourselves as separate from the rest of the world. But what if I told you that within the very core of loneliness lies the potential for one of the most powerful forces in the universe: love? Compassion is not just a feel-good emotion, it's a transformative practice. And Buddhism teaches us that compassion has the power to heal the wounds of loneliness. By turning compassion inward and extending it outward, we can transform the very nature of our solitude. This section explores how the practices of compassion and loving kindness can help us not only cope with loneliness, but use it as a tool for deep personal growth and connection. Compassion towards self, the foundation of healing. Before we can extend compassion to others, we must first learn to show compassion to ourselves. Buddhism places great emphasis on the idea that self-compassion is not only the foundation of healing, but also the key to overcoming feelings of loneliness. For many of us, loneliness is intertwined with self-criticism and negative self-judgment. We often blame ourselves for being lonely, thinking that if we were better, more lovable, or more connected, we wouldn't feel this way. This self-criticism only deepens the sense of isolation, making it harder to break free from the cycle of loneliness. The Buddha's teachings encourage us to treat ourselves with the same love, kindness, and patience that we would offer to a dear friend. Self-compassion means acknowledging our pain without judgment, recognizing that feeling lonely or isolated is a natural human experience. Just as we would comfort a friend in distress, we must learn to comfort ourselves with compassion. When we face loneliness, the practice of mindful self-compassion involves recognizing our own suffering without dismissing it. Instead of telling ourselves, "I shouldn't feel this way," we can say, "It's okay to feel lonely. I'm here for myself, just as I would be here for others." In this way, we shift our relationship with loneliness. Instead of resisting it or trying to escape it, we learn to embrace it with tenderness and understanding. When we start to treat ourselves with compassion, we begin to break free from the negative self-talk that often accompanies loneliness. We realize that we are not defined by our loneliness, but rather we are worthy of love and care simply because we exist. This shift in perspective is the first step toward healing and transformation. Loving kindness. Meditation. A practice to counteract loneliness. Buddhism offers a powerful tool to counteract loneliness and foster compassion. Loving kindness meditation, metta. This ancient practice is designed to cultivate an open heart and unconditional love for oneself and others. In metta meditation, we silently repeat phrases of loving kindness, starting with ourselves and gradually expanding to others. The practice helps us soften our hearts, break down barriers of isolation, and develop a deep sense of connection with all living beings. The practice begins with a simple wish for our own well-being. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be free from suffering. As we repeat these phrases, we cultivate a deep sense of care and kindness toward ourselves. This is especially important in moments of loneliness, as we often forget to extend love to ourselves when we feel disconnected from others. Once we have cultivated loving kindness for ourselves, we expand the practice to others. First, to loved ones, then to friends, acquaintances, and even to those we may have difficulty with. The intention behind this practice is to send out good wishes and positive energy to everyone, recognizing that all beings, like ourselves, deserve happiness, peace, and freedom from suffering. Loving kindness meditation is more than just a mental exercise. It is a transformational practice that reshapes the way we view ourselves and others. As we engage in this meditation regularly, we begin to feel a profound sense of connection to the world around us, dissolving the feelings of loneliness and separation. We realize that no matter how physically alone we may be, we are connected to the shared experience of humanity. The simple act of sending out love through metta meditation can be incredibly healing, helping us to feel more at peace with ourselves and with the world. To illustrate the power of compassion in overcoming loneliness, let me share the story of an older woman named Miriam, who found herself deeply lonely after the death of her spouse. For years, Miriam had been immersed in a life filled with companionship, family gatherings, and shared memories. But after her husband passed away, she felt like she had been cast adrift in a sea of silence. Her children were busy with their own lives, and most of her friends had either passed away or drifted apart. Miriam found herself trapped in a house that once felt full of life, but now felt like a cage of solitude. At first, Miriam tried to fill the emptiness with external distractions, watching TV, visiting places she used to go, and even reaching out to old acquaintances. But nothing seemed to ease the profound loneliness she felt. One day, a friend recommended that she try practicing loving kindness meditation. At first, Miriam was skeptical. She had always been more of a practical person, focused on tangible solutions. But out of curiosity, she decided to give it a try. Miriam began practicing metta meditation every morning, silently repeating the phrases of loving kindness toward herself. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be free from suffering. As the days went on, Miriam noticed something remarkable. Her internal dialogue began to shift. Instead of focusing on the emptiness around her, she began to feel a deep sense of warmth and care for herself. She began to understand that she was worthy of love, even when she felt alone. After several weeks of practice, Miriam expanded her loving kindness meditation to others, starting with her family and friends. She began to feel a renewed sense of connection to her loved ones, even though they were far away. She reached out more often, and when she did, her conversations were filled with compassion and understanding. Miriam also became involved in her local community, offering her time to help others who were also experiencing loneliness. In giving love and care to others, Miriam found a deep sense of fulfillment and purpose. Over time, Miriam's loneliness, transformed from a feeling of isolation into a source of connection and personal growth. Through the practice of self-compassion and loving kindness, she discovered that loneliness could be an opportunity to develop deeper relationships with herself and with others. Small acts that make a big difference. While meditation is a powerful tool, it's also important to engage in compassionate action in our daily lives. Buddhism teaches us that true compassion is not just a state of mind, but something we must embody through our actions. This means reaching out to others, offering help, and simply showing up with love and kindness. For those struggling with loneliness, small acts of compassion can have a profound impact. Volunteering in your community, visiting a neighbor who lives alone, or offering a smile to a stranger are all simple ways to begin cultivating compassion. These acts may seem small, but they create ripples of connection that can transform not only our own lives, but the lives of those around us. One simple but powerful practice is to start each day with a commitment to perform one act of kindness. This could be as simple as calling a friend to check in on them, helping someone carry groceries, or complimenting a colleague. These actions help us focus on others, shifting our attention away from our own feelings of loneliness and toward the well-being of others. As we extend compassion to others, we are not only helping them, but also helping ourselves. The more we give, the more we receive love, connection, and a sense of purpose. The ripple effect of compassion. When we begin to practice compassion and loving kindness, we not only heal our own loneliness, but we also contribute to the healing of the world around us. Each act of kindness, each moment of loving kindness meditation sends ripples of positive energy into the world, creating a web of interconnectedness that binds us all together. In Buddhism, this is referred to as the law of interdependence, the idea that all beings are interconnected and our actions have far-reaching effects. When we practice compassion, we are contributing to the collective well-being of humanity. And as we begin to heal our own loneliness, we create a space for others. Finding inner peace, the Buddhist teachings on contentment. In our pursuit of happiness, many of us chase after external sources of fulfillment, relationships, achievements, possessions, or status, believing that these things will bring us lasting peace and contentment. Yet as we accumulate more, we often find that something is still missing. The sense of inner peace we long for remains elusive, like trying to catch the wind. So what if true peace wasn't something we could find outside of ourselves? What if it was already within us, waiting to be discovered? Buddhism offers a powerful perspective on peace and happiness, teaching us that true contentment does not arise from external circumstances, but from cultivating a deep sense of acceptance and understanding within ourselves. This section will explore how Buddhist teachings on contentment and detachment can help us find lasting peace, even in the midst of loneliness or difficult times. Happiness is found within. The key to lasting peace. Buddhism teaches that happiness is not something we can acquire or achieve through external means. Instead, true happiness arises from within, when we align ourselves with our true nature and let go of our attachment to things, people, and outcomes. In Buddhist philosophy, this idea is closely related to the concept of nirvana, a state of inner peace and liberation from suffering. The Buddha often spoke about the impermanence of life, the fact that all things are temporary, including our emotions, relationships, and material possessions. When we place our happiness in these fleeting things, we are setting ourselves up for disappointment, because they will inevitably change or fade away. True contentment, on the other hand, comes from learning to find peace within ourselves, independent of external circumstances. One of the core teachings in Buddhism is that happiness is found in simplicity. When we let go of our desires for more money, more recognition, more love, we create space for inner peace. We begin to realize that the things we are chasing are often distractions from the peace that is already available to us. Take a moment to reflect on your own life. How often do you look outside of yourself for validation or fulfillment? How often do you find yourself reaching for something more, thinking it will bring you the contentment you seek? Buddhism invites us to turn inward, to recognize that the peace we long for is not something we need to acquire, but something we need to uncover. Happiness is not something ready-made. It comes from your own actions. Dalai Lama. This teaching reminds us that we hold the key to our own happiness. By practicing mindfulness, compassion, and detachment, we can cultivate the inner peace that is always available to us. The importance of detachment. Letting go to find freedom, one of the most profound Buddhist teachings, is the concept of detachment. In the West, the word detachment often carries negative connotations, suggesting that we should distance ourselves emotionally from others or avoid attachment altogether. However, in Buddhism, detachment is not about rejecting the world or closing ourselves off. Instead, it is about letting go of our attachment to outcomes, people, and possessions, understanding that they are not the source of our happiness. Detachment in Buddhism is about cultivating a healthy relationship with the things we love. It is about appreciating them without becoming overly attached, recognizing that all things are impermanent and will eventually change. When we release our attachment to these things, we free ourselves from the cycle of craving and dissatisfaction. We no longer rely on external sources for our happiness, and we can find peace in the present moment. For example, imagine you are in a close relationship with someone you love deeply. Naturally, you want to cherish that person and share your life with them. However, if you become too attached to the idea of their constant presence in your life, you may experience anxiety or fear when they are not around. Detachment does not mean stopping love or care. It means accepting the impermanence of the relationship, allowing it to evolve naturally without clinging to it. Let go or be dragged. Buddha. This simple yet powerful statement encapsulates the essence of detachment. When we hold on too tightly to things, we create suffering for ourselves. But when we learn to let go, whether it's of a person, a desire, or a situation, tools for inner peace. Incorporating Buddhist teachings into daily life, Buddhism provides us with several tools to cultivate inner peace and contentment, even amidst the chaos of modern life. These practices help us detach from our cravings, connect with the present moment, and experience peace on a deeper level. Here are some practical steps you can take to incorporate Buddhist teachings into your daily routine. Simplify your life. One of the first steps toward inner peace is simplifying your life. This doesn't necessarily mean getting rid of everything you own, but it does mean eliminating the excess, the distractions and clutter that weigh you down mentally and emotionally. Buddhism teaches that the more we hold on to, the more we suffer. When we let go of unnecessary possessions, we create space for the things that truly matter. Start by examining the areas of your life that feel cluttered or overwhelming. Are there things in your home that no longer serve you? Are there relationships that drain your energy? Begin the process of simplification by letting go of what no longer brings you joy or adds value to your life. This practice of decluttering can help you cultivate a sense of peace, clarity, and freedom. Practice gratitude. Gratitude is another powerful tool for cultivating inner peace. When we focus on what we have rather than what we lack, we shift our perspective from one of scarcity to one of abundance. Buddhism encourages us to practice gratitude for everything in our lives, from the simplest moments to the most profound experiences. Take a few minutes each day to reflect on what you are grateful for. You might start by listing 3 things you are thankful for, whether it's a warm cup of tea, a kind conversation, or the beauty of nature. This practice helps us appreciate the present moment and cultivate a sense of contentment. Practice. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in the moment, without judgment. It is about observing our thoughts, emotions, and sensations with awareness and acceptance. Through mindfulness, we can develop a deeper connection with ourselves and the world around us. It allows us to break free from the cycle of cravings and dissatisfaction by helping us appreciate the richness of the present moment. To practice mindfulness, try to bring your full attention to whatever you are doing in the moment, whether it's eating, walking, or even washing the dishes. Focus on the sensory experience, the taste of your food, the feel of the ground beneath your feet, or the sound of the water running. As you practice mindfulness, you will notice how your mind becomes quieter and more peaceful, and how you become more connected to the present. Reframe negative thoughts. Our thoughts often shape our perception of reality, and negative thoughts can cloud our ability to experience inner peace. Buddhism teaches that by reframing negative thoughts, we can shift our mindset from one of lack and dissatisfaction to one of acceptance and contentment. When you find yourself thinking negatively about yourself, your situation, or your future, try to pause and reframe those thoughts. For example, instead of thinking, "I'm not good enough," try to replace it with, "I am doing my best, and that is enough." Reframing your thoughts in this way can help you cultivate self-compassion and a greater sense of peace with who you are. Finding peace in the present moment. Ultimately, the key to finding inner peace lies in embracing the present moment. Buddhism teaches that the present moment is all we ever truly have. The past is gone and the future is uncertain. When we learn to be fully present, we release our attachment to the past and our anxiety about the future. We allow ourselves to experience the richness of the present without judgment or expectation. The practice of mindfulness helps us anchor ourselves in the present moment. When we are fully engaged in whatever we are doing, whether it's working, eating, or simply breathing, we open ourselves to the peace that already exists within us. The present moment is the gateway to contentment, and when we stop chasing after external sources of happiness, we can finally find peace within ourselves. In a world that often encourages us to seek happiness in external things, Buddhism offers a refreshing perspective. True peace and contentment come from within. By practicing mindfulness, detachment, gratitude, and simplicity, we can cultivate a deep sense of inner peace that remains untouched by the ups and downs of life. Finding inner peace is not a destination, but a journey that begins with the simple act of letting go. As we release our attachments to external outcomes, we free ourselves to experience the beauty and tranquility of the present moment. And when we do this, we realize that happiness was never something we needed to seek. It was always there, waiting for us to notice. By embracing the teachings of Buddhism and practicing them in our daily lives, we can create a life filled with peace, contentment, and lasting joy. As the Buddha said, "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." When we begin to love and accept ourselves in the present moment, we unlock the true source of peace and happiness. Practical Buddhist methods for reducing loneliness in old age. As we age, loneliness often becomes an unwelcome companion. It may start subtly, with small gaps in the social fabric of our lives, friends moving away, family becoming busy with their own lives, or the loss of loved ones. For many, the later years of life are accompanied by a feeling of isolation, as the world seems to shrink, and the connections we once had fade into the background. But what if there was a way to transform this loneliness, to use it as an opportunity for self-discovery, connection, and inner peace? Buddhism offers us valuable methods and practices that can help reduce loneliness and bring a deeper sense of fulfillment in our later years. Buddhism is not just a philosophy or a set of beliefs. It is a practical guide to living with awareness, compassion, and mindfulness. Through the teachings of mindfulness, meditation, and community engagement, we can overcome loneliness and rediscover a sense of purpose, connection, and peace. In this section, we will explore several Buddhist methods that are not only effective in addressing loneliness, but also deeply transformative in enriching our spiritual and emotional well-being. Cultivating mindfulness in everyday life. One of the most powerful Buddhist practices for reducing loneliness is mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in the moment, without judgment and without distraction. It is about observing our thoughts, emotions, and surroundings with awareness, without becoming attached to them or identifying with them. Through mindfulness, we can break free from the cycle of negative thinking and rumination that often accompanies loneliness. When we feel lonely, our minds often spiral into thoughts of isolation, rejection, or unfulfilled desires. These thoughts can deepen our sense of disconnection and make us feel even more alone. Mindfulness, however, helps us step outside this cycle by encouraging us to notice our thoughts and emotions without becoming overwhelmed by them. Instead of feeding into the narrative of loneliness, we observe it as a temporary feeling that will pass. In everyday life, mindfulness can be practiced in simple ways. Whether you're eating, walking, or doing household chores, try to engage all your senses and be fully present in whatever task you're doing. For example, if you're eating, focus on the texture, taste, and smell of your food. Pay attention to the colors, shapes, and sounds around you. When you walk, feel the sensation of your feet touching the ground, the air on your skin, and the rhythm of your breathing. By practicing mindfulness in small, everyday moments, you can begin to develop a deep sense of presence and awareness. This helps shift your focus away from the feelings of loneliness and creates a space for peace and contentment to arise. Engaging with the community. Finding connection through shared values. Loneliness often grows when we feel disconnected from others. In Buddhist teachings, the concept of Sangha, or spiritual community, is essential for our growth and well-being. The Buddha emphasized the importance of surrounding ourselves with like-minded individuals who share our. As we age, it can be easy to withdraw from social interactions, especially if we feel that we have less in common with others, or that our lives have become too different from those around us. But engaging with a community, whether it's a meditation group, a spiritual center, or a local volunteer organization, can be a powerful antidote to loneliness. Participating in a Buddhist community allows us to connect with others who are on a similar path, fostering a sense of shared purpose and mutual support. It also provides opportunities to practice compassion and loving kindness, both for ourselves and for others. These acts of kindness can create a sense of belonging and community, helping us feel less isolated in our own lives. Volunteering is another way to build connections. Buddhist teachings emphasize the importance of compassionate action, or the practice of helping others. When we shift our focus from our own loneliness to the needs of others, we create meaningful connections that can bring a sense of purpose and fulfillment. Whether it's helping a neighbor with groceries, volunteering at a local shelter, or simply offering a smile to someone in need, compassionate actions create bonds that help reduce feelings of isolation. Small acts that make a big difference. Buddhism teaches that compassionate action is the key to overcoming suffering, both for ourselves and for others. When we are lonely, it's easy to become absorbed in our own feelings of isolation, to withdraw and shut ourselves off from the world. But one of the most powerful ways to break free from loneliness is to engage in acts of compassion. Compassionate action can be as simple as reaching out to a friend for a chat, offering help to a neighbor, or sending a kind message to someone who may be feeling alone. By practicing compassionate action, we not only alleviate the suffering of others, but also bring more light into our own lives. Helping others allows us to connect with them on a deeper level, creating a sense of shared humanity and breaking down the walls of isolation. One inspiring example of compassionate action comes from Elder Lama, a retired woman who had spent most of her life dedicated to her family and work. After her children grew up and moved away, she found herself living alone and struggling with loneliness. At first, she tried to fill the void by staying busy with activities and watching television, but nothing seemed to ease the emptiness she felt inside. One day, she decided to volunteer at a local community center, helping with cooking and distributing meals to those in need. The first time she served a hot meal to a homeless man who had no one to talk to, she saw his eyes light up with gratitude. In that moment, Elder Lama realized that the more she gave, the more she received in return. Volunteering became her way of connecting with others, and in the process, she found a deep sense of fulfillment and joy. Through small, compassionate actions like these, we can transform our loneliness into a source of personal growth and connection. The more we practice kindness, the more we create a sense of meaning and purpose, both in our own lives and in the lives of others. Practical Buddhist methods for reducing loneliness. A summary. Reducing loneliness in old age requires both internal practices and external actions. Buddhism offers a wealth of practical tools to help us navigate the challenges of isolation and find peace within ourselves. Here are some key methods for reducing loneliness. Mindfulness. Practicing mindfulness in everyday life helps us break free from negative thinking and rumination. By being present in the moment, we shift our focus from our loneliness to the beauty and peace that exist in the here and now. Engaging with the community. Building connections with others through community involvement, whether through a meditation, a group, volunteer work, or social activities, helps create a sense of belonging and support. Compassionate action. Performing acts of kindness for others not only helps alleviate their suffering, but also creates a sense of purpose and connection, reducing feelings of isolation. Self-compassion, learning to treat ourselves with kindness and understanding, especially when we feel lonely, is essential for overcoming isolation and fostering inner peace. Meditation and reflection. Taking time for quiet reflection and meditation helps us reconnect with ourselves and find peace within. Buddhist meditation practices, such as loving kindness meditation, can transform loneliness into an opportunity for personal growth and self-discovery. Embracing loneliness as a path to peace. Loneliness is an inevitable part of the human experience, especially in our later years. However, through the practical methods of mindfulness, compassion, community engagement, and self-reflection, Buddhism offers a path to reduce loneliness and transform it. By embracing these Buddhist practices, we can learn to live with loneliness in a healthy, productive way, finding joy and meaning in the present moment, connecting with others through acts of kindness, and cultivating a deep sense of peace within ourselves. The path to overcoming loneliness is not about avoiding it or running from it, but about embracing it as a teacher that can guide us toward greater wisdom and compassion. Through the teachings of Buddhism, we discover that loneliness is not something to fear or resist. It is an invitation to deepen our connection with ourselves and the world around us. And as we walk this path, we find that no one is truly alone when they live mindfully and with compassion. The wisdom of embracing loneliness and finding peace. As we approach the later chapters of our lives, the inevitable presence of loneliness can feel like an unwelcome guest, entering unannounced and overstaying its welcome. Yet what if I told you that loneliness, rather than being a force of suffering, could actually be a teacher, a guide, and a source of profound wisdom? What if, instead of viewing loneliness as a problem to be solved, we embraced it as an opportunity for growth, self-reflection, and ultimately peace? This is the essence of Buddhist wisdom. Buddhism teaches us to accept the impermanent nature of all things, including loneliness. Just as the seasons change, so too does our experience of solitude. By embracing this truth, we can free ourselves from the anxiety and despair that often accompanies loneliness. The key is not in avoiding loneliness, but in transforming it into a path towards self-discovery, compassion, and inner peace. Reframing loneliness as a teacher. Loneliness is often seen as something negative, a painful reminder that we are separate from others. Yet Buddhism invites us to reframe our understanding of loneliness. Instead of viewing it as an enemy or a burden, we can choose to see it as a teacher. Just as a wise teacher challenges us to grow, loneliness challenges us to deepen our understanding of ourselves and our place in the world. When we embrace loneliness as a teacher, we begin to see it as an opportunity for self-reflection. Loneliness offers us the chance to step back from the noise and distractions of daily life and listen to our inner voice. In this space of solitude, we can ask ourselves important questions. What do we truly need to feel fulfilled? What are our deepest desires? And why do we feel disconnected from them? What is it about ourselves that we have been avoiding, and what can we learn from our own vulnerability? Buddhism encourages us to use loneliness as a means to cultivate mindfulness, the practice of being present with whatever arises without judgment. In mindfulness, we learn to observe our emotions, including loneliness, with compassion and acceptance. We understand that emotions, like everything else, are temporary. They come and go. Through this awareness, we are liberated from the belief that we are defined by our loneliness. Instead, we discover that we are more than our emotions. We are the observers of them, free to respond with wisdom and grace. Loneliness is not a permanent state, said the Dalai Lama. This simple yet profound truth reminds us that even the most painful moments of isolation are fleeting. When we stop fearing loneliness and begin to accept it as part of the ebb and flow of life, we open ourselves to the possibility of peace and contentment, even in the midst of solitude. Embracing the present moment, one of the most powerful teachings of Buddhism, is the importance of living in the present moment. So often, we become consumed by thoughts of the past or anxieties about the future. We dwell on past relationships, missed opportunities, or the people we have lost. We worry about what lies ahead, about the future state of our health, our relationships, or our finances. But in doing so, we miss out on the richness of the present moment. Buddhism teaches that the present moment is the only moment we can truly experience. The past is gone and the future is unknown. By focusing our attention on the here and now, we release the grip of loneliness. When we are fully present, we no longer need to chase after external sources of happiness or connection. We become aware of the simple pleasures that surround us. The warmth of the sun on our skin, the sound of birds singing in the morning, the feeling of breath moving in and out of our bodies. These small moments of connection with the world around us can be deeply fulfilling. In Buddhism, this practice of mindfulness helps us cultivate a deep sense of gratitude for the present moment. It teaches us that even in the quietest and loneliest moments, there is beauty to be found. By embracing the present, we free ourselves from the need for constant distractions. Taking the first step toward transformation. While embracing loneliness as a teacher is a powerful practice, it is not always easy. It requires us to be vulnerable, to face the parts of ourselves that we may have been avoiding, and to be patient with ourselves as we work through the discomfort of isolation. However, it is in these moments of vulnerability that we experience profound transformation. If you are struggling with loneliness, know that you are not alone. Many of us experience feelings of isolation at different points in our lives, but it is through these challenges that we can develop resilience, compassion, and wisdom. Buddhism teaches that suffering is a natural part of life, but it is through our response to suffering that we cultivate growth and understanding. The first step toward embracing loneliness as a path to peace is simply to acknowledge it. Instead of avoiding or numbing the pain of loneliness, take a moment to sit with it. Allow yourself to feel the emotions without judgment. Recognize that loneliness is not a reflection of your worth or value, but a temporary experience that will pass. Next, begin to practice mindfulness. Start by taking a few moments each day to focus on your breath, to observe your thoughts and feelings without becoming attached to them. As you build your mindfulness practice, you will notice that the grip of loneliness begins to loosen. You will begin to see that your true nature is not defined by your emotions, but by the awareness that observes them. You can also begin to practice self-compassion. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a friend who is struggling. Be gentle with yourself in moments of loneliness. Remind yourself that you are deserving of love and care just as you are. In doing so, you will create a safe and nurturing space within yourself where peace can flourish. Finally, reach out to others. Loneliness can often be alleviated by human connection. If you feel isolated, seek out opportunities to connect with others, whether it's through a community group, a meditation circle, or simply calling a friend. Sharing our experiences of loneliness with others creates bonds of understanding and compassion, reminding us that we are all in this together. Motivational closing. A call to embrace the path of mindfulness and compassion. In the end, the wisdom of Buddhism teaches us that loneliness does not have to be a source of suffering. By embracing loneliness as a temporary and transformative experience, we can find peace, wisdom, and compassion. We can turn our solitude into an opportunity for self-discovery and growth. We can learn to love ourselves and others, to live with mindfulness and acceptance, and to cultivate a deep sense of peace that transcends the external circumstances of our lives. The journey to peace begins with the heart. When we embrace loneliness with mindfulness, self-compassion, and loving kindness, we unlock the transformative power of solitude. We realize that even in our most solitary moments, we are never truly alone. The path to peace is not a distant destination, but a present reality available to us right here and right now. As we close this exploration, I leave you with the wisdom of the Buddha. You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. May your journey be filled with love, light, and the wisdom of the present moment. You are never alone on this path. If you found these insights helpful, I invite you to join me on this journey of self-discovery, mindfulness, and personal growth. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out on more empowering content that blends the wisdom of Buddhism with practical tools for everyday life. We're all walking this path together, and your presence here means more than you know. Leave a comment below and share your thoughts. Whether it's your experience with loneliness, how you've embraced mindfulness, or simply how you connect with these teachings. I love hearing from you, and I'm grateful for the community we're building together. Thank you so much for your time and for being part of this space. Remember, you are not alone, and the path to peace and wisdom starts with a single step. Keep walking with mindfulness, compassion, and love. I look forward to sharing more with you.